my walk. I've been walking every day just for some kind of routine and exercise whilst it's cold, because I don't really like running in the cold that much, I'll be honest. But also it means my mum can come with me, and we've been walking every day, socially distanced of course. But it's amazing. You can see all of this woodland behind me. It's incredible that this is still London. I feel very lucky to live where I live because it's like a perfect mix of both. The busy city, like I'm close enough to central London to be able to commute to work within about an hour, just over an hour. But then when I come home, it looks like this, and it's so nice. So I've got my wellies on, my pink polka dot wellies, and my aim is to get my 10,000 steps on my Fitbit every day, which I've managed to do every day this week. And then some. I can only go walking with one other person from one other household, and my mum's the one who likes walking, so I'll wave at Dad from away whilst he's sat in the car dropping my mum off, and then me and Mum will go for a walk. As promised, here is the escapee Christmas decoration that my auntie gave me maybe last year. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know why I was given this, but it is perfect for the tacky tree. So on she goes. I'm gonna give her pride of place because this is the first time she's been on a tree. I'm gonna go for there. I look like a boxer. You know when boxers come out in those like loose robes? I mean, the fact that I've just likened myself to a boxer is hysterical, but I will say that this is one of the best things I've ever bought myself. When I did the Cinderella trailer shoot, when I had like the big Mr. Whippy ice cream wig, the dresser, the costume woman there, she bought her own dressing gown for me to borrow for the day, and it was one of these, and I remember getting into it and being like, oh my god, this is the coziest thing I've ever worn. Like, it's not too thick that it gets hot really quickly, it's also not like chunky where you feel like sort of Michelin man walking around, but it's just made of a really nice material and it's snuggly. And the one that she let me borrow was like a light grey, but it didn't have a label in the back, it just had this big square label that says Duvet Days Daydreams. And I was like, I'm gonna have to Google it. Googled it, couldn't find it. Then I was ordering my big Bridget Jones knickers on M&S, and I came across a dressing gown that looked really similar, and I was like, oh, could it be? And it had a picture of the Duvet Days tag in the back, and I was like, oh my god, 25 quid, M&S. This is, maybe I got it in extra large. I got it in an extra large. Coziest thing I've ever bought. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I've got matching pajamas as well. Cheers to that. I've not been very good at videos over the last couple days because me and my mum, as I said at the beginning of this video, have been walking a lot. When I say we've been walking, I really mean hiking, because we've been going through the woodland in and around where we live, and the weather over the last few days has been frightful. The weather outside is frightful. So it was like boggy swamp, mud puddles that didn't look that deep until you stepped in them and you became the Vicar of Dibley and it was like up to your neck. It was a proper full-on three and a half hour. We left at 10:52 and we hiked, walked, whatever you want to call it, trudged through the swamp for 2 hours and 55 minutes, which is the longest walk we've ever done. I'm currently on 17,889 steps, which is the most steps I've done maybe all year. But when I say we've been walking a lot, we've walked every day for the last week, and in that time we've walked 54 kilometers. I'm sure there's lots of people who have done more than that, but it's quite an achievement for us. I do have a blister on the sole of my foot now though, because we had to walk in wellies today, and I've got a blister on the sole of my foot that is the size of like a golf ball, and it's on my heel. So maybe we'll take tomorrow off. But it's meant that every time I come home from one of those walks, I end up napping on the sofa because I'm absolutely exhausted. So my plans to sort my office has kind of gone abandoned. But I'm gonna try and do it tomorrow. So New Year's is coming up. New Year's is maybe one of my favorite times of the year. I don't know what it is about New Year's, I just love it. I love the notion of the slate being wiped clean, of starting a new chapter in your life, of just kind of reinvigorating your outlook on your life and your situation. I kind of feel the same towards it as I do about Valentine's Day, you know, where everyone's like, well, you shouldn't need Valentine's Day to do nice things for the people that you love. I agree, but I also don't think a day that celebrates doing nice things for people that you love and celebrates the people that you love is necessarily a bad thing. Is it a way for companies to make you spend money on flowers and chocolates? Probably, sure, whatever, but I still think the sentiment of the day is lovely. And that's kind of also how I feel about New Year's. I don't think you need the excuse of New Year's to wipe the slate clean and decide that you're gonna change your outlook on life, but I feel like if it takes a day like New Year's to make you do that, then it can only be a good thing. But the idea of setting New Year's resolutions, when I know that the situation from this year isn't gonna magically change as soon as it hits 1 minute past midnight on January 1st, it feels like quite a futile thing to do, especially if your New Year's resolutions were going to be travel more, spend more time with my friends and family. But I guess I kind of want to take the challenge of coming up with slightly more interesting New Year's resolutions then. I want to come up with New Year's resolutions that adapt to COVID life. This year I've been forced to learn, but have really enjoyed learning, how to separate work and pleasure. So it was easier to balance work and pleasure when when I only had one job to do. So I kind of need to take this importance that I've put on separating work and pleasure and making time for myself, and making sure that, you know, I'm working enough hours to get stuff done, but also not working enough hours that I don't feel burnt out. I need to take the importance that I put on that and learn to apply it to my life when things do suddenly get busier. But the funny thing about this year is that because I've been less busy, I've been able to walk with my mum more often and therefore connect with my family more, which is, you know, ridiculous in a time when I'm not actually able to see them more. But it means that I've been able to engage in like my family WhatsApp group more often because I'm not like on a train with no signal reading something that I then forget about and forget to reply to by the time I get to the theatre. You know, I'll be there as they're having the conversation and I'll get to engage in it with them. And it's the same with my mum. Like, I don't think I've been for a walk with my mum since I lived with her, since I lived at her house when I was like 22. Something I failed at this year, despite having more time than usual, is reading more. And I know that I wrote 2 books, which contributed to me not reading more, because I really struggle reading whilst I'm writing. I really struggle immersing myself in someone else's world whilst I'm trying to create my own. I find it really, really difficult. When I was like between Into the Spotlight and With This Kiss, I read like 6 books in the space of like a month, and I was absolutely thrilled with that. But as soon as I started writing With This Kiss, which is my next novel coming out next year, I found it really hard to pick up someone else's book and start reading. And again, I just need to be better at managing time. I need to be better at going, okay, well, I've spent the last 5-6 hours writing my book. Now I'm gonna take some time for myself and read someone else's. I don't know how many books I read this year. Probably about 9 or 10. Nowhere near as many as I wanted to, basically. My 3 favorite books this year were The Shelf by Helen Acton, which I think was like the first book that I read this year. It's so good. I absolutely loved it. I will link to it below. Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, I also really, really loved. I thought that was really insightful, really eye-opening, really funny. There was a point in the book where I literally went, oh, no way! Like out loud, just like that. And Girl A by Abigail Dean. That's the book that I've read most recently. It's not out until next year and it's fantastic. It's a thriller. It's just really great. It's one of those books where you feel like life gets in the way. When I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about how much I was looking forward to reading it. I will link to all of those below, but right now I'm gonna go finish the tiny little last sip of my port and I'm going to chill. and have a mince pie.